The impact of sugar in your female reproductive hormones. Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Kristi Tompkins, women's hormonal health specialist from teen years to menopause. And today I want to talk about the impact of sugar right as we're heading into fall. Got my little fall display here. And this is a time of year, it's actually one of my favorite times of the entire year because of the holiday celebrations and the festive gatherings that we have with our family and our friends. It is the year for Halloween candy, the season for baking, for Thanksgiving, Christmas, pumpkin spice lattes, all that fun stuff. And I love it all. The decorations, the fall leaves, the crisp weather, the sweaters. What happens during this time of year, as many of you know, especially if you live in the United States, there's a lot of sugar going around. At this time of year, it makes the world go round. And what it does is it tastes incredibly fabulous for most people. And what it does is it can adversely affect your female reproductive hormones. It can affect every organ in the body, every organ system in the body, but especially with regard to the female reproductive system, your ovaries, your uterus, breast tissue, everything. That's what we're going to focus on for today. So, how sugar affects the female reproductive system, let's kind of break down the different forms of sugar. So, you've got basic white table sugar, you've got things like maple syrup, honey, you've got artificial sweeteners, you've got natural sweeteners from plants like stevia. And then you have other types of sugars that are converted into sugar, things like white bread, pasta, crackers, chips, alcohol. And it's often hidden in a lot of food products that you may not see right away. Cereals, sauces, very frozen foods, and sugar is also found in fruit. Sugar is also found in vegetables, but it tends to be less of the refined sugar depending on the type of vegetable. So sugar is found everywhere. So this is not about completely avoiding sugar altogether because that would be impossible. Our body needs glucose so that it can survive and thrive. It's one of the primary sources of fuel so that we can stay alive. So, but it really depends on the amount of sugar or how the sugar is broken down in the body and how much of it gets into the cells, into the organs, and how it affects the rest of the body. With regard to, let's say you are choosing to have a breakfast of, let's say, a muffin or a pumpkin scone and a sugary latte mocha with chocolate sauce and syrup and milk and all sorts of other fun stuff. And now you've got this high sugar, high carbohydrate. And by the way, the term carbohydrate is really one of the macronutrients that could include a lot of different types of carbohydrates, sugar being one of them. So let's assume you're having a high sugar breakfast. And let's say you have something like this day after day, week after week, month after month. And you're also having a lunch, a dinner, snacks in between that also happen to have a lot of white sugar or refined sugar and not as much of the complex carbohydrates, vegetables, some fruits in some cases, and not enough protein and not enough of the right kind of fats. So you're having this high sugar meals all throughout the day, the week. And what happens is over time, depending on your age, over time, your blood sugar continues to climb. It stays elevated. Your body now releases a surge of insulin, one of our protein hormones or one of our hormones composed of a lot of amino acids secreted by the pancreas to help lower that glucose, carry it into the cell. But what happens over time is if you do this too much chronically, then that can, number one, lead to elevated blood sugar, elevated insulin resistance, The first symptom you're going to notice is you feel a lot more sluggish, you feel more tired, brain fog, weight gain. So too much sugar will lead to fat gain. And then if left untreated, it will definitely lead to metabolic syndrome. Insulin resistance is part of that. And then eventually diabetes, which we don't want, because then there's a whole cascade of horrible symptoms, adverse symptoms that result from diabetes. With regard to your female reproductive system, is your ovaries getting the signal from your pituitary gland are producing progesterone, testosterone, and progesterone. And that's all part of your reproductive cycle. Let's assume you're still having a period, and if you're not menopausal yet, and your body, your reproductive system, your ovaries are producing those hormones as part of your normal monthly menstrual cycle. And typically estrogen, testosterone, the first part of your cycle, the follicular phase, and then at ovulation during the luteal phase, the second half is when you're producing predominantly progesterone. That cycle that happens every month will get affected by that surge of glucose or sugar that you're ingesting, which then gets converted into glucose, and the surge of insulin. And what happens is it will affect the normal reproductive cycle in a sense that can lead to hypothyroidism, which our thyroid's right here, because of all of that. And then that will affect the regularity of your female reproductive cycle. Too much sugar, too much insulin will also cause more fat storage, as I mentioned, which will then lead to more estrogen, because estrogen is made by the ovaries and the adrenals, but it's also stored in the fat cells or in our fat cells in our body. And now you've got this further imbalance or estrogen dominance between estrogen and progesterone, and potentially reduced thyroid or reduced conversion of T4 to T3. And what also tends to happen for a lot of women is they will produce more testosterone. Testosterone is one of our androgenic hormones. It is important for our sex drive, our procreation. It's an androgenic fat burning hormone. It gives us energy. It gives us greater cognitive function. It has a powerful effect on our cardiovascular system, and so much more. And so what happens is now you've got a bit more estrogen, maybe not as much progesterone. Maybe progesterone takes a backseat because now this insulin resistance, metabolic syndrome, hyperglycemia is a threat to the body. So now progesterone takes a little bit of a dip, which can cause irregular menstrual cycles. You've got the surge of testosterone now because of this metabolism issue. And what happens is a lot of women will start to get facial hair and lip hair, and they start to get acne breakouts, cystic acne breakouts, either on the face, on the jawline, the neck, the chest, the back, hair loss, and on the scalp, but potentially more body hair. And so now you've got this disrupted, dysregulated cycle of estrogen and progesterone, testosterone that are out of whack. They're erratic. It's not the normal, consistent amount. Your normal, by the way, there is no normal, but your normal, it's completely disrupted. And what tends to happen is eventually women stop getting a period. They stop getting a period. And that is also known as excessive cystic ovaries or polycystic ovarian syndrome, where there's a bit more cysts on the ovaries potentially. And that is something that is caused by, and again, that's not always something that is easily diagnosed by yourself, and certainly not easily diagnosed from a doctor at first glance. It takes a lot of questioning and time to figure out if that is the cause. But the cystic ovaries will eventually lead to irregular menstrual periods, irregular menstrual cycle, irregular menstrual periods. You're not getting a period every month, and now you're skipping. You have too much testosterone and not enough, or too much testosterone and a dysregulation between estrogen and progesterone. And all of this is kind of one of the worst case scenarios that can happen with too much sugar. Our body is incredibly resilient, and our body is incredibly adaptive to changes in our body. So this is not going to happen in a week. It's not going to happen in a menstrual cycle or 1 month. It may not even happen after several months, but several years of this will eventually lead to a lot of these symptoms. My point in sharing all of this is that as you go through this incredibly happy, festive, fun fall season and beyond, because we know that we eat sugar all year round, that you can do things to mitigate the adverse effects of excess sugar on your female reproductive system. Things like making sure that you're having the right kind of carbohydrates. When I say the right kind, the healthy kind would be vegetables, some fruit, balancing that with protein, high quality protein, high quality essential fatty acids in your diet, and cutting back on those refined carbohydrates as much as you can, whether you call this the Paleo diet, modified ketogenic diet, Mediterranean diet, something like that, paired with exercise, moving your body multiple times per week, whether it's a mix of aerobic conditioning. Strength training is powerful here because it increases fat burning. It increases mitochondrial function, it increases detoxification, and it actually helps support and balance the female reproductive system. So healthy diet, exercise, and always stress management, doing all those things will help to lower your blood sugar and help get your blood sugar back to normal, and often over time, and your thyroid. And over time, as your body gets healthier, your period comes back, and that metabolic syndrome, hyperglycemia, insulin resistance syndrome, and symptoms start to drop, and now your body's back to normal. But it all comes down to moderation, it all comes down to balance. And again, your body is resilient. And your body can recover from this, but it is going to take some self leadership. I hate to use the word discipline, but some self leadership in getting your body back on track. And if you don't know what the hell I just said over this last however many minutes now, 12 minutes, you can always go see a functional medicine or naturopathic medical doctor like myself. They can run the right tests. They can ask the right questions. They can give you the right treatment protocol to get you back on track. Enjoy the fall.